This morning we are going to be looking at two verses that are pretty different from each other. They're pretty different, but they have similar meanings in the message that they give us. And that is the importance of stopping and watching and listening and internalizing Jesus. You know, the new year is kind of a time known for action and planning and, you know, getting our to-do list ready to go, to be successful, to go out and do. But what if you don't really know what it is God is asking you to do? You know, what if you're kind of in a season that's been a little bit of a spiritual dry season? And what if your to-do list is actually part of the reason that you're having that? What if it's part of the reason? You know, sometimes we can get so caught up in our to-do mindset that we actually kind of lose sight of what it is we're working toward and working for, and that's Jesus. And sometimes what we need to do is to just turn off and tune in. We're going to look at just turning off and tuning in this morning. Have you guys noticed that listening is kind of a lost art nowadays? And you know, I don't know if it's these social media apps, which ironically are supposed to be convenient ways of communicating, but listening is kind of a lost art. And I just want to say this to single men everywhere for 2016. If you guys want to find that magical woman in 2016, you got two options to do it. Either listen or you work out and look great. If you don't want to listen, you better work out and look great. If you don't want to work out and look great, just listen. And the women will love you. So it's just a bit of encouraging advice going into the new year. So, but listening is a bit of a lost art. How many of you know listening is not waiting for your turn to talk again? Which, growing up in a house with 4 boys, that was definitely the case. You know the saying, only the strong survive? Only the loud survived in our house. You know, we'd be around the dinner table, and we were always, you know, fighting for the attention, fighting for the spotlight of our parents, you know, and one of us would be telling a story, and you could never finish your story without someone trying to, like, take it over. You know, the talk over, take over? You know, you're telling a story, and someone, they assume that you want them to jump in and steal your story. No, yeah, take it. You know, you're hanging, hey, yeah, so I was with the guys, and we were bowling. Yeah, and I got a turkey. Like, hey, it's my story. Like, no, man, I'm better socially. Like, just let me tell the story. I think it's so inconsiderate, so rude to talk over someone, which actually brings us to our story today. And as best as I can tell, this is the only time that God, the most powerful yet considered being in the universe, actually talks over someone. Can you believe it? He talks over someone while they're still talking. Who is this person? It's Peter. Of course it is. If you don't know much about the New Testament, Peter does most of the talking. Even though it's God's story, he does most of the talking. And so, you know, in this extraordinary moment, you know, Peter does what Peter does. You know, he does what humans do. He speaks up. Why? Because he thinks he's there to obviously say something and do something. I mean, he goes on this high mountain he's with Jesus, James and John, the 3 disciples closest with Jesus. Okay, they go up to this high mountain. Jesus, his face starts shining bright like the sun. His clothes become white as light. Moses appears. Elijah appears. And Peter just speaks up. He goes, Lord, it is so good that I'm here. Is it not? I mean, you know, we got you, Jesus, the son of the living God, and then we got Moses, the receiver of the law, and then we got Elijah, the greatest prophet, and then you got me, Peter, the fisherman. I mean, this is just a great mix of people. So, you know, anyways, the reason it's good I'm here is because I build stuff. I can build huts, and I can just imagine Moses like, who's that guy? And Jesus is like, it's a long story, bro. I only do what the Father tells me to do. And Moses, he says, you know, if you'll have it, Jesus, I'll build a hut for you. And Moses, I'll build a hut for you. And Elijah, you won't be left out. I'll build a hut for you. Huh? What do you say? And God, he talks over Peter. But he doesn't just talk over him. I love this. He sends a cloud and just sort of envelops him. The equivalent is like when we were at the dinner table, my dad just takes a coat and just like, stop. No, stay under there. Right? Like he sends a cloud and he just envelops him. And it becomes incredibly clear that whatever Peter is saying, God is just completely disinterested in. He's completely disinterested. He was like, no, I'm not even going to put a period on this one. I'm gonna just talk over you. And the next time we see Peter, James, and John, they're on their faces, and James and John are like, Peter, you're an idiot. Now, before we go any further, let's make some critical observations, and then we will pick up where we left off. Now, first of all, you have to understand that Jesus is a Jew. He is the promised Jewish Messiah. He has come to save Israel, to redeem Israel. And of course, now his redemption offered to Israel is now offered to the whole world. But oftentimes, to understand Scripture and to engage in Scripture, we have to put ourselves in a Jewish mindset. We have to put ourselves in an ancient mindset. And we're going to pick up with this first observation here. In verse 2, it says, "And he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light." Why is that significant? Well, if you were a Jewish boy or Jewish girl growing up, you would have been taught the Torah. And you would understand that there's a parallel being pulled out here. And the parallel is that there was another great leader, another great prophet to the Jews. His name was Moses, and his face as well was bright with light. But there's a profound and fundamental difference here. In Exodus 34, it says, "When Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the covenant law in his hand," the tablets known as the 10 Commandments, he was not aware that his face was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord. Now, as the story goes, Moses' face, the bright or the shininess or the glory would actually fade. Notice, Jesus' face was shining from within. Moses' face was shining from without. What's being said here is very strategic. It's a message to Israel that there's one who has come who is greater than Moses. He's greater than the law. He's the fulfillment of the law, and his glory is not from without. His glory is from within because he is the fullness of the Godhead in bodily form, and he is the promised come Messiah. Okay, this is very significant. Now, going on, another observation is why Moses and Elijah? Why not Abraham? Why not David? Why not Ruth? I mean, there are all sorts of just great heroes that could have appeared to Jesus on this mountain. Well, Moses and Elijah, they are very significant roles, very, very big players to Israel's history. Moses, of course, is the receiver of the law, and Elijah is probably the greatest and most prominent prophet in the Old Testament. And there are a few different similarities between Moses and Elijah. They both had just big moments with God on mountaintops. They both had big moments. But they also kind of died mysteriously. Moses, the Bible said, was buried by God. So God did the funeral all by himself? Yeah. He was walking with God, and then God just buried him. The language is very mysterious. And guess how Elijah died? It said he walked with God, and he was no more. Right? Like, it's almost as if he was just taken by God, which amplified their status. These were just huge, larger-than-life characters to the Jewish people. And now, Jesus is standing there. His glory, his essence from within is now being shown without. His face shines bright like the sun. His clothes go white as light. And Moses appears, Elijah appears, and the message here to Israel is very clear. That there's one who has come who is greater than Moses, who is greater than Elijah. He's the fulfillment of the law. He's the fulfillment of the prophets, and his glory is from within. Now, back to our story. In this just magnanimous moment, Peter does what humans do. Peter speaks up because, obviously I'm here to do stuff and say stuff. Which brings us to an all-important question. Why are Peter, James, and John there? Why are they there? Well, that's a pretty valid question, which actually becomes really relevant to you and me. Because I think God is constantly trying to do the same thing with us. He's constantly trying to do this with us. Why are they there? I think we can kind of pick up the whole reason they're there just in the first few lines of the account. Let's listen to the language. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John his brother, and led them up to a high mountain by themselves. Listen, and he was transfigured before them. I love this. Jesus, could you sit them down real quick and just explain what's about to happen? So guys, in a moment, it's about to get crazy, but don't freak out. So what it is it's called transfiguration. Transfiguration is my essence within being shown without. It's a moment of me declaring, my deity and my messiahship. And you guys are key players because you're going to, help the local church be birthed and grow throughout the earth. So, okay, here we go. Count to 3. Get ready. He doesn't do that. There's no warning. It's just imagine that. You're walking, boom, he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun. His clothes go white as light, and behold, there appeared to them. Notice, he was transfigured before them. There appeared to them. Why are Peter, James, and John there? To watch, to look, and to listen. They're there to witness something. Yeah, but did you want us to do anything? I build huts. James is good with numbers. No. Just watch. Please hear me. Life is not always just about what we can build, but also what we can witness. We are witnesses. That's the relevance here. Instead of going and doing, which if you're like me, oftentimes I get so caught up in just the doing and the talking and the building, trying to get closer to God. Looking for the right equation to get to God, and I forget to do the most important thing, and that is to stop and watch and admire and soak in and internalize Jesus. And believe it or not, but Jesus actually had a lot to say on this subject during his life and ministry on earth. And we're going to take a look at one of those accounts in John chapter 6. Let me give you a little bit of context of what's happening here. So the people being referred to in the story were people who were fed the day before. The Bible records it as 5,000 people, but it's more realistically anywhere from 10, 12, maybe even 15,000 men, women, boys, and little girls were fed miraculously by one little boy's lunch. So the next day, the people, they're looking for Jesus, and when they find him, Jesus says to them, "Most assuredly I say to you, you seek me not because you saw the signs, but because you ate the loaves and were filled." In other words, you're here because I filled your bellies. It says, "Do not labor for the food which perishes, but for the food which endures to everlasting life, which the Son of Man will give you, because God the Father has set his seal on him." Now listen to their question, because I think it's a very interesting question, and actually this is kind of what caught my attention out of this verse. They said to him, "What shall we do that we may work the works of God?" Notice language. It's a lot of doing and a lot of working. What shall we do that we may work the works of God? Now get ready for one of the more frustrating answers from God ever. Jesus answered and said to them, "This is the work of God, that you believe in him who he sent." Wait, no, we need work. We need something to do. Wait, this is the work that we trust, that we rely? Yeah. See, they're looking for something to do, and they're looking for work, and Jesus introduces trusting. Going on, so Jesus says, "Believe in him who he sent." Therefore they said to him, "What sign will you perform then, that we may see it and believe you?" What work will you do? That's weird, because yesterday he fed you supernaturally. They said, Our fathers ate the manna in the desert, and he gave them bread from heaven to eat. And Jesus said to them, Most assuredly, I say to you, Moses did not give you the bread from heaven. Now, what's he saying? He's saying, Moses did not give you that supernatural bread. It wasn't law, it was love. Okay, you think it was Moses and their 10 steps of a to-do list that got them the bread. It wasn't the law, it was love that got it. Jesus, they say, okay, hey, let's talk about bread. Let's talk about manna. And Jesus says, yeah, I'd love to talk about bread. Part of the reason why I fed you bread is to point you to the true bread. He says, to the true bread, he says, my Father is offering you true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. They said, Lord, give us this bread always. And Jesus said, I am giving you the bread. I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. But I said to you that you have seen me, and yet do not believe me. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me I will by no means cast out, for I have come down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. This is the will of the Father who sent me, that all he has given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up on the last day. And this is the will of him who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. Again, to fully understand this, we have to look at it with our Jewish mindset, okay? These Jews have been used to thousands of years of just being told what to do. Their life has been a to-do list. Their existence, their belief system has essentially been 10 things to do. They approach Jesus, and they don't know he's going to do things differently. They approach Jesus after he fed them miraculously the day before. And Jesus says, you've come to me because I filled your bellies, but you should be in pursuit of something far more spiritual, something far more satisfying. They don't really know what he's saying. They go, okay, yeah, great, whatever. So anyways, we were kind of talking last night, and we want to do like the works of God. So tell us what to do. Tell us, you give us steps. Give us signs. Give us your 7-step program. 12, we're listening. 21 if you need to. Just give us the steps to supernatural life. Notice it's interesting. Notice the preference. They want signs, and they want things to do. That's humanity, right? We want signs and steps. Give me signs that you're real, and give me things to do. Jesus, he frustrates the whole trend. He says, here's the work. Trust. Believe in him who he sent. He says, my Father has sent true bread that you partake of if you'll have everlasting life. And they said, Lord, give us this bread. And he goes, hello, I'm right here. And then begins one of the longest speeches recorded by Jesus. We end up producing here some 71 verses as Jesus begins to explain that he is the bread of life. In other words, we want signs and steps, but what God offers is a Savior. We want things to do and places to go, but God gives us someone to trust. That, for Westerners like you and me, can be a little frustrating. If you go out and look at what's selling right now, people want 5 keys, 7 steps, 8 points. That's what they want. That is what people are buying. And I'm not saying that's bad by any means. It's actually really helpful. But go to Barnes and Nobles, and we see only 8 chapters, and I can have success. I'm in, right? See, I'm not the only one. See, 10 steps for a beach bod? You signed me up, right? But when it comes to Jesus' life and ministry, they're asking for that. They're asking for keys. They're asking for steps. They're asking for points. And Jesus says, you just need to trust and believe the one who God sent. And then begins Jesus' explanation. I mean, how long is this? 71 verses, nonstop. One of the longest speeches of Jesus' life. I'm telling you, go and read this later today, because it gets intense. He says things like, I want you to drink my blood. What? He says, I want you to eat my flesh. I'm telling you, it gets weird. So weird that people, they leave the meeting. They're like, I got to go. I don't get nothing to do, but I'm going to get out of here. It's weird. I mean, Jesus, he gets very visual, very literal, very, very clear. What's the message here? What's he trying to say to the Jews? Jesus is trying to explain as clearly as he can to these guys who are used to a to-do list. He's trying to explain to them, hey, there's a shift happening right now. There's a shift happening, and it's from external to internal. It's from external to internal. And once again, you think you need something to do, you need signs, you need steps. He says, here's the work. Here's the work. Is this even work? Are you messing with us? Here's the work. Trust, rely, lean, believe. Like that's it? Yeah. And they go on to manna, and he says, oh, speaking of manna, let's talk about manna. Manna, he says, manna was a neon sign pointing you to the true manna, He says there's a lot more going on in here, guys. He's saying this is not just a mental assent. This is not just a mental exercise. This is not just agreeing with the concepts, ideals, and ideas of Christianity or Jesus. He's saying this is something that happens in your heart, in your soul, in your spirit. And he's saying come on, guys. I am the bread of life. He's saying this, you gotta internalize this. Now in this ancient culture, the metaphor of bread is actually far different than it would be today. Okay? We eat bread in the car. We eat bread in drive-thrus. We eat bread on airplanes. We eat bread while we're talking. We eat bread while we're walking. I mean, bread is it's on the go. You can get it anywhere. You can get it everywhere. Okay? That's not the case in this culture. There are no drive-thrus. There are no bread at the airport that have hydrogenated oils that give it a shelf life longer than your grandparents, okay? They don't have that. This is a different day. This is bread spoiled fast. It took time to make, and the partaking of bread was a process. So, in other words, the partaking of bread in this ancient culture required things like resting, stopping, reclining, relaxing. And most of the people Jesus is talking to, when they ate bread, it would have been an hour of eating, 2 hours of fellowship, reclining, and relaxing. So when we hear bread of life, we're like, okay, that's awesome. When they hear bread of life, which is who Jesus is speaking to, and it's the point he's trying to make, he's saying, here's the point. To believe in me is to recline. It's to rest. It's to yield and digest. Saying, take me in. They had been busy doing things for some 2,000 years, doing a to-do list. And here he's saying, what do we do? And Jesus says, believe. And he says, well, show us a sign. He goes, I'm right here. I'm your sign. And I love it. I love Jesus. He says when you eat of the true bread, he says you'll never thirst again. You'll never hunger again. And he says things like, they're still a little confused. He says, I want you to drink my blood. I want you to eat my flesh, right? He's just trying to convey, hey, I need you to feed on me. He's saying there needs to be a feeding frenzy. I need you to take me in. I need you to internalize me. How passionate is Jesus about the internalization of him? How passionate is he? He's saying that there's a lot more going on in here, right? This is not just a mental exercise, which sometimes that's what we can make it. We'll come to church. I've done this so many times. We'll come to church and go, I just wish we had a bit more practical keys, right? Like I've done this so many times. And now I'm all for being practical. I'm all for it. You know, I love practicality, if that's even a word. I love it. But this just recently hit me. What if we become so used to the to-do mindset that we've lost the intrigue and the mystery and the romance of relationship with God? I mean, do you remember when you were romancing your spouse before they were your spouse? Do you remember the intrigue, the mystery, like, oh, do they like me? Like, oh man, this is a good date. It's only our second date. Oh, she's smiling. This is awesome. This is amazing. Right? Like, try to put clear-cut keys, men, to wooing a woman. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. The moment you have 7 steps to woo every woman, you are in for a rude awakening. You're in for a rude awakening. And, I mean, the truth is, the more you know women, the less you know women. And the longer you're married, the more deceived you become that you know women. But there needs to be an element of that in our relationship with God, right? I mean, women are one thing, but God, the creator of the universe, who breathes and suns take their place in the galaxy. I mean, there's an element there of mystery that a pastor can't always give you, 5 keys to intimacy with Creator God. They don't always know. But we know this. He says, I want you to trust me. Even if you don't understand me, I want you to internalize me. I want you to recline into me. I want you to rest into me. Now someone might ask, well, can you define trust? It's trust, right? Like, what are some of the practical keys to trusting? Can I say this? When you know you're trusting, you're trusting. Like, here are the keys to trust. You really got to do it, right? I don't know. But again, I think we complicate it so much. What is trust? Let's talk about, what is trust? You know what trusting is, and I know what trusting is. And I know when I don't trust someone, and I know when I trust someone. Like, I don't trust that person. How do you know? I don't know. I just don't trust them. Something weird about them. I don't know. I just feel distrust. Like, I trust that person. How do you know? I don't know. I just trust him and I trust her. I just trust him. Right? Like, I just trust that person. I don't know. Part of this is it's mysterious. It's intuitive. Like God, He puts trust in us for Him. It's a gift from Him. I mean, I think back to like when I got saved. Back to when I met God. And I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I see it like one moment I was here, and then the next moment, it was, God showed up. It was like, ta-da, hello, where have I been? You're God, this is awesome. Like, I can't explain it, but I know how real it was. Like, I know how much I trusted Him. I am, Jesus says, I am the bread of life. This is the first I am recorded in the Gospel of John. And I think it's significant. Later, He'll say, I am the light of the world. Then He'll say, I am the resurrection and the truth and the life. Then He'll say, I am the way, the truth, and life. Then He'll say, I am the door. Then He'll say, I am the good shepherd. But the very first one, the very first I am is, I am the bread of life. Because He's communicating, when it comes to me, when it comes to who I am, it starts with internalizing and digesting and feeding and receiving me. And that's what struck me about these 2 passages, is that the emphasis isn't in the doing. It's not in the working, at least not in the traditional sense that we're used to. It seems to me that God is much more passionate about making sure that we see Him, making sure that we know Him, making sure that we take Him in. And not only Jesus, but that seems to be God's passion. In the Synoptic Gospel, which is Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they follow a similar storyline. In the Synoptic Gospel, there are only 2 times on record where God speaks directly to earth. Only 2 times. And in those 2 times, do you know he says the exact same thing? He says the exact same thing. Matthew 3:17, Jesus comes out of the waters of baptism, and when he comes out of the water, God the Father says, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." Okay, fast forward to the Mount of Transfiguration. Peter's talking. Peter's got an idea. He's got a resolution. He's going to help God. It's going to be amazing. And God interrupts with, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." When God audibly repeats himself to earth, it becomes incredibly apparent to me, and hopefully to you, that the most important thing that this planet and its inhabitants can come to realize is what we have in Jesus, God's Son. Jesus is not just special to you and to me. Notice how special he is to God. God's saying, he is the object of my obsession. He is the culmination of my person. Everything I am is in him. What would God do? How would God look at Jesus? It's in Jesus. It's in Jesus. Lost my spot, dang it. That's why. He says, it's in him. We got, only 2 times he's spoken to earth, repeats himself. Now, I don't know what it is God might be trying to tell you today. I don't know what it is he might be trying to nudge you with, but maybe it's been kind of a dry season. Maybe it's been a busy one. Maybe stressful at work. And maybe God's just trying to say, hey, I just want you to recline into me. I just want you to soak me up, right? Maybe you've been waiting for a sign from God. Maybe he's saying, hey, I've already shown you one. Maybe he's saying, hey, I just want you to trust me here. Maybe he's just saying, hey, man, when's the last time we just had a night together? When's the last time we just hung out? I know for me that this idea of turning off and tuning in, I have to be reminded of all the time. Whether it's leading a small group, whether it's speaking here at church, which I am so underqualified to do both. If I ever start to feel like pressure, anxiety, I just stop and let God work. Let him remind me of his love. Let him remind me that he's in my corner. Let him remind me that he's my strength. Let him remind me, hey, take a break, right? I might be underqualified, but he's not. And if we take the time to turn off and tune in and listen to what he has to say and then let what we do flow from that place, if we let our to-do lists and our plans flow from that place, I'm telling you, the sky's the limit. And just in the midst of working on this message and thinking about the new year, thinking about resolutions, one of the things that just came out of my heart was just, I want to know Jesus more. 2016, I really want to know him. I want to be near to him. I want to look more like him. I want to think more like him. I want to love humanity like he loves humanity. I want to love this city like he loves this city. But it won't happen if we just go places and do things and God just tell me what to do. Just give me the steps. Hey God, come on, tell me. He's like, okay, you want me to tell you? I'll tell you what to do. Just believe. Just trust me. God, that's a trick, God. Come on. You know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. And he's thinking, you need to know what I mean. You need to know what I'm talking about. Saying, just trust me. Just know me. Just know me. This life is not so much about places to go and things to do as it is who to know. It's who to internalize, who to know. He wants us to know him. And all of life, I'm telling you, will flow from that place. And it'll be so clear. I pray that for our lives, that we put away the to-do mindset, that we learn to just to trust him, that we learn to trust what he's saying and just live life from that place, that simple, just intuitive, just romantic, mysterious, authentic relationship with God. I pray that.